Hello and welcome back to Scale Model Fun. Thanks so much for joining me today. I'm going to be building the F14 Tomcat with the 103 Squadron, nicknamed the Jolly Rogers. This is my first ever 148 scale, so really excited to try something bigger than my usual 172 builds. There were definitely some unique challenges with this kit, but let's get into it. For example, here we had to add some weights to the nose cone just so it wouldn't tail sit, and the cockpit interior is noticeably larger compared to the 172 scale, which actually made painting a little bit easier. I hand painted the switches just to add some color and bring this to life, and there was also some parts that had to be hot welded together, which I didn't have much success with, and something that I'll have to practice in the future. So after applying some 1500 primer, I was spraying with XF2 flat white, and I really struggled with this paint. You can see how patchy it is here. I had to do about 6 coats in order to get that nice flat finish. And that may be because of the pre-shading I did, but also on the weapons and accessories, I also struggled to get a nice flat finish. I don't know if it's just that particular color or just my paint mix wasn't quite right, but I did really struggle with that white. This was also the first time I tried this method of blue tack just to get the camouflage pattern on the underside of the aircraft. And I learned from doing this and watching some videos that there's actually a special type of blue tack you can use. So always something new to learn. And then I'm using the masking set from UK Scale Modeler. Absolutely fantastic set of masks, which I will link to in the description there. And finishing that off with a bit of VMS masking liquid just saved me a lot of time and hassle, and came out with a really good result. And then I was ready to spray with X1 black. Okay, so for the main body color, I'm using XF14 Deep Sea Gray. This is probably a bit darker than it should be in reality, but it was the closest that I could find. And this is, again, also the first time doing this pre-shading, so I wasn't sure how thin to make the paint and exactly how much of the pre-shading should really shine through. I probably covered up a bit too much, and in the next build I will likely make this a bit thinner to let that pre-shading really kind of shine through. So just a quick note about the channel that I'm an amateur scale model builder, and I just like showing my mistakes to try to help other beginners learn what to do and what not to do. Sometimes professionals might skip these tips because they're quite obvious to a beginner, so hopefully that this will help you improve your builds as well. For each of my subsequent builds, I tried to add at least one new technique into the build. So for example, the blue tack for the camouflage pattern instead of masking tape was used for this build. And that's the joy of this hobby, is that there's just always something new to learn. So here on the white sections, you can see that the pre-shading really came through quite nicely and provided a really good effect. And here we can see the interior of the cockpit, and the little details that were added earlier are really nice and visible now that it's in the correct place. Okay, so I really struggled with the decals on this build. As you can see here, I didn't seem to have enough decals to cover the entire width of the Phoenix missile, and I'm not sure if this was just me, and also I put it incorrectly and made a real hash of this one, so next time I just need to be a bit more careful. And also some of the decals, for example, for the AM Sidewinder and on the Phoenix, this decal number 30, I just didn't seem to have enough of them. But anyway, here's the completed Sparrows and the full set of armaments there ready. Also the scale, I did struggle with a little bit because, on the diagram, the areas didn't quite seem to match up. Another example where I was struggling a little bit was on these, I think they're sort of side light details, and didn't seem to quite match up as expected. So when I'm applying the decals, I'm soaking that in warm water. Too hot and the decal will just slip right off of the paper. So I just have it kind of lukewarm. The warmer the water, the easier it comes off of the decal sheet. And then just very gently slide that into place as close to the position as possible. And then apply some Mark Fit Strong on the top of the decal to just soften it. And that also allows you to kind of nudge it into place. So it allows you to very accurately put it in the right spot. If you find that you put it in the wrong place, just add a bit more Mark Fit Strong, and that creates like a little bit of a swimming pool that the decal can move around in, and you can get it into place. And then if there's any excess, just wipe that off with a cotton bud. And so some of the larger decals, like this one behind the canopy, were a little bit fiddly. I did find this kit, the decals were quite soft, so I had to be careful not to tear them. But again, just using the same method, so a bit of Mark Fit Strong underneath, slide it into place. If you need to readjust it, just add some more of the Mark Fit Strong on top, and that gives us that little swimming pool effect. We can nudge it around and try to place them as accurately as possible. And a couple of rookie mistakes which I made is always check where you're placing your hands on the model. On one occasion I put my hand where a decal was, and it actually tore and broke it. So then, as you'll see in a little bit, I had to fix that as well. So here's an example of the USS Nimitz decal, which is not in the right position at all. And also the air intake decals had to be sanded down and replaced. And a big thank you to my friend, the UK Scale Modeler, who provided me with the spare set, which I could place on. And then once all the decals were on, I could seal them in with a coat of the X22 Clear from Tamiya. So I found that these jets aren't super dirty, so I tried to keep the weathering quite subtle. On the area where the wingtips fold, there often was some grease and grime, and I just replicated that by using some washers and a cotton bud. And now for the smaller pieces, I'm just applying some panel line wash from Ammo, this deep gray, just to bring out some of the details. So I've seen on some other builds that some other modelers, they use lead wire just to add some wires to the undercarriage, and this provides some really nice detail, which I'd like to try on my next build. And here, for example, I also struggled a little bit with the number of decals, because I've got 4 on this fuel tank, but I thought I should also have 4 for the other side. I'm not too sure. I couldn't find any reference pictures. But again, just using the panel line wash, this is a neutral wash by Ammo, just to bring out some of the detail there. Okay, and then adding some fresh engine oil by Ammo to the jet exhausts, just to bring out some of the detail there. So actually a bit of a correction, I didn't use the X22 to seal in for this layer. I actually used the AK matte clear coat just so that the weathering would adhere to that a bit better. The X22 clear I use once I've completed all the weathering. There we go, so that's the weathering done, and now we can move on to the final assembly. Just put together the pylons, wheelbase, and a few other bits. Okay, so just adding the pitot tubes there. Okay, so you'll notice that there's some seam lines on the canopy there. I know that there's some method to remove those, and I'll try that on my next build. Also, I had these smudge marks on the canopy, which fortunately I could remove the canopy and clean, but that was due to a small gap in the canopy between the fuselage, and the paint actually seeped in and rested on the inside of the canopy. So fortunately I could clean that. And so I'd just say maybe don't glue it down until you're really ready. But there we go, that's my F14 Tomcat. There we go, that's my F14 Tomcat. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this, please do like and consider subscribing. If there's anything you'd like to see differently, please let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much. Have a great day and see you on the next one.